Hey Internet, it's RJ. Welcome back. Thanks for tuning into the show today. Now, today's episode, we're going to talk about store credit cards, right? You don't see them talked about too many What's in My Wallet videos, but you're always offered one, and they do have a level of savings. So we'll go over the difference between them and regular cards. We'll talk about the pros, the cons. We'll do a comparison as well between a store card and a regular card. Of course, come out on the other end, figuring out if these are worth considering adding to your arsenal or not. So, of course, if that sounds interesting to you, then go ahead, press the subscribe button, and let's get to work. Alright, so first things first, we've all been there before, right? When you go to checkout, usually at mid to large, department stores, right? There's at minimum, there's someone asking if you want to join a loyalty program, and worst case or best case, depending on how this video comes out, there's someone asking you if you want to sign up for this store credit card. Now, there are two types of store credit cards. We're going to cover both. So there's one store credit card that's really only can be used at that store. And you'll know it because it doesn't have a Visa or MasterCard or Discover American Express logo. Again, those are payment networks which allow the card to be used elsewhere. And then there are what we call co-branded cards, which are primarily benefits of using it at a specific store for a specific store, but because it has a payment network, Visa, MasterCard, Discover, it can be used other places. So we will talk about that in our comparison on the back end of this. Now, functionally, these cards work the exact same as credit cards, right? They are still a revolving line of credit. Someone's still going to do a credit pull to check your credit score before you get approved for it. And of course, you'll make your purchases on it, and then at the end of the month, end of the billing cycle, you will get a statement which you have to pay. That's exactly how credit cards work, right? So it's actually the exact same thing. Now, there are some key differences, though, and so we'll do a pros and cons list to kind of figure out if, these are worth considering for you. So if we start off with the pros of store cards, right? Well, the pros, again, they're marketed at folks who love that certain store, right? Because, they're given out or offered at the point of sale, which is the perfect time to offer someone, if they want to, save money. Makes a lot of sense. And if you frequent a store, like again, I think Kohl's was like the most infamous charge going back in the day just because how many commercials they had. And then, if you had the card right, you would get even more Kohl's cash, which was like these coupons that you could basically bring back to Kohl's and buy more stuff, right? And then, they would also mail you home like a little flyer every month, and it had like either 20 or 30% off coupon in there. So you can see that right there. Just having a card with no annual fee, you are getting a little bit more for potentially your favorite store if you were, that big of a fan of Kohl's. Now, additionally, these cards tend to be easier to get approved for, and it's because they want to cast a wide net. And, you could probably, if you're on one of these stores or one of these issuers, go down and, dig into the metrics and the data of who comes into the store and figure out target demographics. But realistically, if you're Target or Kohl's, if you want to stick with that analogy, anyone can really come in there, right? It's still a wide net. You never know. So as a result, I want to be able to get as many people through the door as I can to be potential customers of this card, because of course that's going to help lock them into the ecosystem. And then it still does build credit, right? So if you're having a hard time getting approved elsewhere, this could be a potential path to go through. Though of course there are other options like secured cards and student cards out there that may work better for you. So those are the primary pros of this, really being tied into that ecosystem. But what are the downsides of these cards? Well, downside is the main one is you're going to be tied into one ecosystem in terms of legit store cards. Again, I'll show you an example of co-branded eventually, but if it's a co-branded, then at least you can use that card elsewhere, right? So example of a co-branded would be if you want to jump over to like Delta, right? The Delta American Express card, you can use that card everywhere, but it does get better earnings on Delta purchases, but it's still co-branded, right? A store card, again, is going to be like our Kohl's charge, where you can't use it anywhere else. You can only use those points to go to Kohl's. You can only get discounts at Kohl's, right? Which again may be helpful for you, but it is very limiting because again, Kohl's doesn't sell everything, primarily just clothes and kitchen stuff and things like that. They generally have higher APRs because again they're casting such a wide net. That's kind of how the issuer makes up for it. So as a result, the credit limits can be rather low, which may or may not, be of concern to you. And then, of course, these cards do lack a lot of benefits that you might see on other cards, because you have to remember a lot of the benefits that we see are kind of offered by MasterCard and Visa, and then the card issuer can choose to take them or not take them, like your cell phone protection, purchase protections, things like that. But if they're not on a payment network at all, well, then that was never an option, and more often than not, the store is not actually going to want to, cover that as a perk, right? These are really just meant to lock you in. Doesn't necessarily have to be a bad thing, but it's just something to be aware of. So overall, those are your pros and cons, but let's drive this one home with an example. So we're going to take Amazon, and because Amazon is probably one of the biggest stores, and it's probably the best use case I could think of where you may actually want to go store card, but they also do have a competitive credit card as well. So if you don't know, Amazon has a store card issued by Synchrony Bank. Then they have 2 credit cards on the personal side. There's one if you're a non-Prime member, and then there's one if you're a Prime member. Those are issued by Chase. So we're going to look at the Prime versions, because again, if you like Amazon this much to consider a store card or a credit card, you're probably a Prime member. So we'll do some comparisons and we'll kind of come back for final thoughts. So here we have it straight from Amazon. You can see I am an Amazon customer already, so they are, marketing to me. It's my name is there. But if you go down to the bottom, well, you say at the top, actually, you can see you're going to get a $60 Amazon gift card today when you get instantly approved for the card, right? You can actually see if you pre-qualify if you wanted to do that. But you'll see the perks at the bottom. So you got 0 APR financing, no annual fees, 0 fraud liability, and you can join Prime to get 6% back. Now again, this is just at the time of taping. Prime Day is right around the corner, but you can see in the smaller print, normally this is going to be 5% back year-round at Amazon, which is not bad, honestly. Because like we said, some store cards don't come with any rewards. So again, this is saying, hey, obviously because it's in the Amazon ecosystem, you'll earn 5% back, which is pretty good. Now, another big selling point of this card is the fact that it has these special financing plans that you can use as well. Now, in my opinion, most time stuff on Amazon, if you shouldn't have to use financing to pay for it, right? It's either you have the money or you don't. So I wouldn't necessarily focus on that as a perk, but it is there. Now, of course, you can see from the card image, again, there is no Visa MasterCard logo. So again, this can only be used at Amazon.com. Now, on the other hand, if we take a look at Chase, we take a look at the Chase Amazon Prime Visa. Again, you do have to have Amazon Prime for this, but again, that's how you trigger the 5X on the store card as well. And that makes these a little bit even of a comparison, because you can see here we do have multipliers of 5X back on Amazon. This one adds Whole Foods, also adds 2X on restaurants, gas stations, and drugstores, and 1X back on everything else. Now, you don't necessarily get the financing here, but we do see a lot of issuers adding financing options to their accounts. So, if you go into Chase, Chase has, My Chase plan now, Amex is pay over time and things like that. So you still probably could get some level of financing, on this card, versus having to, pay in full, or even, just making the monthly payments and avoid interest like that. But overall, you can see the difference here. While the Amazon store card is not bad because it's still matching the highest multiplier, 5X, but it doesn't have anything else. So if you only wanted one card, the Amazon card could still work for you, because you're still getting 2X back at gas, groceries, which is pretty good, and 1X back on everything else, versus nothing on the Amazon store card. So that's kind of the difference. And again, we picked Amazon because Amazon's like the company that it almost makes the most sense to do this, because they sell so much stuff, but every other store is so much smaller than them and sells, doesn't have a wide variety of inventory. You can see how you could very easily get to diminishing returns. Now, very quickly on the co-branded side, again, we have Delta and Marriott and Hilton as co-branded cards, but we never really knock those, but they still very much co-branded. But after the hotel and airline cards, there is kind of a fall off in co-branded cards. So Barclays has a lot of co-branded cards, and you can kind of go through them. And the thing you really want to see with this or store card is, can I do better reasonably with another card, another mainline card, right? And sometimes, in very rare instances, it could make sense to get the store card if you really, really love that store. But overall, in my experience, you're going to do much better off trying to find a rewards earning credit card. You get better protections out on it. You get all the purchase protections, things like that. You get multipliers. You're not locked in. You can cash those points out for other things, which is helpful in a level of flexibility, right? Store cards, in my opinion, are really just created to keep, bringing you back to the store, which makes sense, right? It's really, made for people who don't necessarily want to look around and look at other cards. So I'm not going to outright say store cards are the worst thing in the world, right? If you just really, really love a store, like you're one of those huge Kohl's fans from back in the day,
Well, let me tell you about Kohl's.
then so be it. If it makes sense for you, then so be it. The point of this is really so you understand what else is out there before you make your decision. So anyways, guys, that's been it for this one. If you liked it, drop me a thumbs up down below. If you found a particularly interesting course, consider subscribing to the channel. Posting content just like this every week. Of course, right back here every Sunday with all the news you can use in the week that was in credit and finance. My question for you guys down below is let me know if you do have a favorite store card. Were we too harsh on store cards? Are we fair? And of course, all you fans of Kohl's Cash, definitely sound off down below. But anyways, guys, that's going to do it for this one. As always, thank you so much for watching. I'll talk to you very soon in the next one.